Welcome you to my lesson for the Promising Partnership Practice project for our class. In this particular lesson, we're going to be talking about developing an astronomy-themed family science night for a school. And as we develop this, we want to first of all make sure that this is purposeful. We don't want to do this as a last-minute thing that is thrown together. We don't want to do it just because. If we are going to spend time and resources developing something, there needs to be a clarified and defined purpose for doing it. We would like to have some defined outcomes for this family science night. Again, following Stephen Covey's suggestions, we should begin with the end in mind. Well, having gone through this family science night, what do we want to be different? What are the outcomes we want to experience from engaging the community in this activity? And we're also going to be challenged to balance our idealistic ideas versus our realistic situations. We all have idealistic notions of how these things should go, but the reality is that our families, our teachers, our students, our communities faces challenges. And so we are going to have to find a balance between the way we want things to go and real life challenges of putting on such an activity. So to begin with, I'd like to just stimulate some of your prior knowledge, and I'm going to ask you to think about 2 community involvement activities that have happened in the past. So anything that has gone on in the past, could be a carnival, could be some sort of academic night. And I'd like to prompt you to think about what went well, and I'd like to prompt you to also think about what challenges were faced during these previous activities. And if you're working with a partner, I would ask that you turn to your partner or your small group and spend some time brainstorming some ideas about these 2 activities and what went well and what sort of challenges were faced. I will pause for a few seconds here, and I'd ask that you pause the video and take as much time as you need to work with your partner to complete this portion. Okay, hopefully you've taken some time to think about 2 community involvement activities that have happened in the past, and you've thought about some things that went well and some of the challenges that were faced when executing these activities. I'd also now like to challenge you to describe your ideal community involvement activity. And this is an opportunity for you to just take the restrictions off, think about your absolute ideal situation. If you could design the perfect community involvement activity, what would it look like? Pretend that all your resources are available. Pretend that there are absolutely no restrictions whatsoever. And pretend that it is executed flawlessly. So this is your time to let your imagination run wild and think about your ideal community involvement activity. Again, I'll pause for a few seconds. I will ask you to pause the video and work with your partner or small group in brainstorming some characteristics of your ideal community involvement activity. Okay, hopefully you've taken some time to do this. And so what we've done so far is we've thought on some previous activities and some of the challenges and successes involved with that. And we've also hopefully stimulated our excitement and our thinking a little bit by describing our ideal community involvement activity. So let's move into sort of the meat of this lesson and really get things moving. What I'd like you to do right now is to spend some time clarifying the desired purpose and outcomes of a family science night. So some questions to guide you would be, why are we hosting this science night? What sort of student benefits do we hope come as a result of this family science night? And how are we going to measure success? So once again, I'll pause for a few seconds. I'll ask you to work with your partners or your group. And let's get clear on this. Why are we going to do this? Why are we going to use time and resources to host a family science night? Okay, hopefully you've taken some time to do this. And again, I'm taking a page from Stephen Covey here, saying that we should begin with the end in mind. If we're going to launch into some sort of community involvement activity, hopefully we can clarify the purpose as to why we're doing that. Our next step is I'm going to ask you to think about astronomy and space science as the theme for this family science night. So we're going to have a family science night activity to involve family and community in our science education here. And I'd like you to consider making it astronomy or space themed. And what I'd like to ask you to do is, how can we use space science to teach engineering concepts to students? How can we use space science to teach life science concepts for students? And how can we use space science to teach physical science concepts to students? I'm suggesting we use astronomy and space science as our theme simply because I've seen that astronomy and space science has the potential to seriously engage students. It tends to be an inspiring subject. It tends to be something that students can get excited about. Excuse me. And so I would like to use that as our theme. And I'll pause here for a moment to allow you and your partners to brainstorm some ideas and as to how we can use astronomy and space science to teach other scientific fields as well. Okay, so hopefully you have taken some time to do this with your partners. Moving on now, I'll ask you to identify some community challenges involved in putting together an activity such as this. Are there going to be language issues that have to be managed with our community? If we're going to be inviting parents in and community members in, what sort of language challenges are we going to face? Are there any things that are going to prevent families from attending? Possible things would be transportation issues and work schedules. And is there anything that we might be able to address that? So take some time now with your partners to brainstorm and list some community challenges that we might face when it comes to hosting a science night like this, and then try to come up with a few solutions as well. Okay, hopefully you've spent some time with your partners doing that, and we're going to move on to the next step. So at this point, I'd like you to think about some community STEM specialists, some community science, technology, engineering, and math specialists that we might be able to invite. What members of the community do we have that could actively be a part of a science night that could help us to further this agenda? How can they be involved? Could they man some stations? Could they introduce themselves? Could they give presentations on their job? So take a moment to think about local members of your community and how you might be able to tap them and their specialties in furthering this community science night. Okay, hopefully you've taken some time. And now we've come to the final portion where we are going to start to put all of these concepts, all of these ideas that we've brainstormed and discovered to use. So what I'd like you to do is spend some time and begin planning an astronomy-based science night with your group. So all of the concepts that we've discussed during the various do portions of this lesson, please use those and take those into account. Consider what topics we would want to cover during an astronomy-based science night. What types of stations might we want to set up as part of our science night? So, based on the concepts that we've discovered so far in this lesson, please take a moment to begin planning our own science night here and using the things that we've discovered, begin putting everything together. Let's focus also on engagement and learning. Fun is important, but engagement and learning is the purpose. So while I would encourage our lessons and our experiences for our students to certainly be fun and enjoyable, they should also have a learning purpose to them. So go ahead and spend some time with your partners and working on this, and that will wrap up this lesson. Thank you very much.